Welcome back to Adulthood, friends. This is the discussion-based podcast where two former childhood acquaintances, now friends, discuss the things that adverb, Josh? Egotistically?
Egotistically is what I was going to say, but I was trying to figure something else out.
Well, I like our on-the-nose adverbs.
Yeah, let's go with it. Egotistically matter.
Things that egotistically matter. And I'm
Egotistically, that's your adverb of the week.
Oh, yeah. It's been a while. And I'm Aya.
I'm Josh.
And today we've got episode 46. We're talking about the ego. So what does it mean to have an ego? Is having an ego a bad thing? Is having a bigger ego a bad thing? Is bigger better, bigger worse when it comes to ego? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's talk.
Let's find out.
Let's find out. Stay tuned to find out.
No, we're genuinely curious. We have no idea if bigger is better or worse.
Let's get
into it.
And we're back.
Oh, it's so good to be back.
Mm-hmm. It sure is. I mean, it's been a while since we recorded, but
yeah, I took a little break.
One thing I didn't miss was you saying that, but
you did miss it. Come on, you had this nice warm fuzzy feeling when I said it.
Oh, is that what? Oh, that's what you call like that kind of feeling of irritation, almost like something is scratching at your. It's almost like the sound of nails on a chalkboard, but just verbal. I know.
I didn't realize you were so into nails on a chalkboard because that gives you a warm fuzzy feeling inside. You do like teaching chalkboards? I don't know. It's your thing.
Yeah, no, I use a whiteboard generally.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what we've got at the university, unless you're in like one of the older classrooms these days. So I bring my own little whiteboard things and then you can erase it and it's real nice. It's fancy.
Well, before we ask you to teach us a little bit about the ego.
I wasn't planning on doing that, but okay.
Because you're a teacher. What's going on? How have you been?
I've been all right. I've been pretty busy. It was a lot of marking, lots of other stuff because I feel like I've talked about this all the time, but like I'm taking courses, I'm teaching courses, blah, blah, blah. So I'm done teaching now. We just have some exams, but yeah, it's all coming together.
And you're giving the exams?
I'm giving yes. So I should clarify. I'm the one giving the exams, not the one taking the exams.
Isn't that so much better to be giving the exams?
It's so much better. It's such a weird thing because they're all stressed and stuff. And I'm like, la, la, la. Oh, I can answer your question. Oh, you need to go to the bathroom? I'll take you. How's your exam going? Like,
oh my God. Do you have empathy for these kids?
Of course. Yeah. I feel for them. Of course. Yeah.
Really? Because when do you become that teacher that stops caring like the ones that we had that stopped caring?
Well, I don't know, but I told you I got like a whole letter from one of my students that was talking about how I'm like, I mean, speaking of ego.
No. Tell us.
I mean, I could read it for you, but
please
a little too egotistical.
This is the episode to do it.
It's a whole page.
Oh my God.
I actually have two. One student on our last day, like one student was like walking around and I was like, what is he doing? And he was getting all the other students to sign a card for me. And he wrote like this beautiful thing in Spanish. And he's like one of the best students, like he's just great. And there are lots. They're wonderful. If they're listening to this, you guys are great. They kept asking if they were my favorite class. And I loved going to that class. It was at 9:30 in the morning. You know how I feel about waking up early, but I would show up and they'd be like, hey, Aya, we're doing the hurdle. Can we do this? So we would like do the hurdle in the mornings. Do you know what a hurdle is?
I have no idea what that is.
Do you know what the wordle is, right?
Oh, yeah, I know what a wordle is. I've been doing that every night.
Oh, so hurdle, it plays like a little bit of music. So it plays like 2 seconds of a song and then you guess. And if you can't get it, then it plays you another few seconds. It's pretty fun.
Oh.
Yeah, so we would play that together.
Did you do any teaching or?
That was before the class actually started. So that was like if I showed up early and there were a bunch of
no wonder you're the best teacher ever.
Can you imagine? No, the thing about teaching university is like I always feel like I have to give them their money's worth. Like you can't, I feel weird going off topic too much because I'm like, these kids paid so much money or their parents paid so much money to be here. Like I should really teach Spanish the entire time.
Or the student loans paid so much money for them to be there.
OSAP paid so much money for them to be here. So yeah, no, that was pre-class. Anyways, these students kept asking if they were my favorite. And I kept saying like, all my classes are my favorite in different ways.
They were up there for sure.
Kind of true. But I really loved this class. Like they were really just, there's usually like one group of students who like get my jokes and are like really into it. And they're like, this is our favorite class. In this class, there were like 4 different groups like that, like separate. And eventually they all kind of became friends with each other. And it was just this big group of friends who like loved class. And I just, it was so much fun. I loved it.
Would you say that being a teacher with all of these subjects that are praising you really helps inflate your sense of ego?
God. Yeah. Yeah. Like every time you feel like
sense of self-importance.
Definitely. And like when they leave the class, they're like, even the quiet ones that you're like, do they hate this class? They're like, I really like the class. Thank you so much. And I had one girl, she was like, you're so patient. Thank you for helping me with this thing. And I was like, oh, you're welcome. Like I don't know. I could talk about them all day.
Did it change you when you heard that? Did you go home thinking, I'm the fucking best?
Maybe I think like the first years I was teaching it really like, it's really weird to like get that kind of praise from people too. Cause like, I remember how I felt about teachers I liked, and it's kind of weird to be on, like, you feel a little like, I don't want to say you feel like a rock star, but maybe like a stand-up comedian. Like some people really like your act. Some people aren't that into it, but like
some people want to come up there and slap you in the face.
Exactly. Yeah. Sure, that happens plenty. So
happens
so I have
sometimes.
A letter from one student. Okay, I'm not gonna read it because that's too much even for this episode, even for people who are egotistic enough to have a podcast about themselves. One second.
That was a Will Smith, Chris Rock joke, by the way, for anybody who didn't catch that. God. Not pro-violence.
Everybody in the world knows about this. Look at this letter. Josh, look at this.
Wow, and it's got great handwriting.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I mean, I think it is.
She's a science student. So she was like, I've never had a teacher who like truly cared this much and like showed me, I don't know. It's a whole thing. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. Although I did read it to my mom and she got all like teary eyed. She was like so proud. Oh, and they gave me tulips. So I have like a bunch of tulips.
What?
And so this was the last day, and the kid that had gotten everyone to sign the card came and gave me the card and the tulips. And I was like, oh, thank you. That's so nice. They were like, we really love this class, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, well, thank you to you guys. And then they all clapped.
A standing ovation or?
No, sitting ovation.
Maybe next year.
I've never had anyone clap for me. I was like, I kind of wish I had this recorded so I could just be like, look what they did. They started clapping. Anyways, that was quite the boost to my ego.
Yeah.
As you can imagine. Yeah, I won't read this whole thing, but you said something about teachers not caring. And she was saying like, I've never had a professor that I felt truly cared until this class. Like, and she's in 4th year. She said I was a diamond in the rough when it comes to professors.
You know what? You're setting the example. I don't know. I mean, you should. I mean, we'll get into this.
She gave examples too of why I cared. She said, do you want to hear them? No,
yes,
I don't know. This is so off topic right now.
No, I want to hear them in a second. I just want to say, if you do good, if you do something right, you do something that makes an impact, you should feel good about that. I really do think that that's not something you should minimize. I mean, I don't think we should overemphasize things, of course, but you shouldn't minimize the good you've done either, because we should all be inspired to do the same, because obviously you've set a good example, and you're not just like a good teacher in the sense of, I remember a high school teacher back in Lucas, I think it was our history teacher. Everyone loved him. He was the best history teacher. Mr. Hayes. And it wasn't because he was really good at teaching history.
He wasn't, yeah.
It was just because he let you watch movies all day long.
Yeah.
Because he didn't do any teaching. And I think we know better now.
No, I'm a teacher gets really excited about grammar. So like, I'll be like, oh my God, I'm so glad you asked that question. I'm gonna go.
Yeah. So I think the fact that you get to be perceived as a great teacher for actually teaching, for actually doing your job and doing it really well, that's a true success right there.
Just pile it on. Let's hear more. Everybody inflate my ego, please.
Go on. Explain what are the 4 things?
The 4 things.
You just said there's 4 things. Did I miss it here?
Oh, I said, she gave like examples. The letter?
Yeah.
Yeah, she gave examples of like why. So she said like, having you as a teacher after 4 years of undergrad studies gives me some ability to reflect. That's probably where you got the 4 from. I've never had a teacher be so compassionate, caring, and accommodating. I've never had a teacher tell me to check my test for areas I could get more marks. Because I told them like, look, if you can find something, I'm happy to give you more marks. Like I make mistakes too, or maybe I missed something. I don't care. So they did. Some of them did. That's fine. It was a little annoying because I had to remark some things, but I was like, you know what? You want an extra 0.25? I'll give it to you. If you found the spot where you deserved more, that's fine. Anyways, yeah. So she thought that I truly cared. And then she wrote, so she gave me these scrunchies that she made. So she said the purple is a Western purple and the yellow is because you're the light in what can be a dark and difficult time in students' lives.
Oh my gosh.
I know. She's such a like engaged student.
This person's love language is clearly gift giving.
Maybe. And like
and
words of
oh my God, all of them. You're right. It's all in one. She was like, I don't know what your love language is, so here's everything.
And actually, yeah, and she also asked to give me a hug after her, like, we did these evaluations at the end, like individually. And she was like, can I give you a hug? And I was like, yeah, of course. So she was sweet. I mean, and like like did all this stuff, but there were a lot that were just like, oh my God, this was the best class. Like, you don't know how sad we are that it's over. Like, are you teaching next year? And it's just, it really like fills you with
ego. No,
yeah, that's where I feel the warm,
Enjoy.
fuzzy feeling. I almost feel as warm and fuzzy about them telling me these things as I do when you say, it's so good to be back.
I understand, not quite as good, but that's okay. It's understandable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, you deserve it.
Okay.
You deserve it.
Enough about me. Oh my God. Me and my ego. Yeah. Like I'm just sitting here talking about myself, as we do on this podcast. So what's been going on with you? Ego or non-ego related?
I don't know if this is ego related. You remember how I did those clinical trials?
I sure do. Yeah. Were you doing more?
Well, I did another clinical trial.
Oh my God.
I did. I stayed in a clinic for 10 days, tested some.
Show us your arm.
Look at this.
I'll describe this. Josh has it's not huge, but it's big enough.
It used to be. It
looks
huge.
like the kind of bruise that used to be disgusting, and it's still slightly it's like a yellowish green bruise on his arm.
It was like that, but like across my arm. Because of the catheter they put in my arm. Basically, they would draw my blood over an extended period of time. So they put a catheter in my arm. Actually, they did it in both arms and 2 different days. The other arm went better. This one, they hit something and it bruised up my arm. Yeah, that wasn't fun. There was a lot of procedures, lying in a bed. It's weird because usually you go to the hospital or you go to a clinic or whatever, and they're doing things for your medical benefit.
Yeah.
But this is...
Now you're just doing things for money.
It's for other people's medical benefit, I guess.
And to contribute to our overall understanding of blah, blah, blah.
No, I mean, like medical this drug, things. It was for idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis.
Oh.
So basically a type of chronic lung disease.
Mm. I thought idiopathic just means like you don't know the cause or like you don't know what's going on exactly or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe. You might be right.
I'm not that kind of doctor.
Me neither.
I'm just saying things. Okay.
Anyway.
So let's move on before our ignorance shows.
No, this is the drug that they were using to try to help with that. This is the first time it was being tested in humans. Before that, it was tested in dogs.
Oh!
Yep. Sorry. The dogs were fine. Apparently, the worst they felt was nausea and some weight loss.
How do they even know they felt nausea? They can't ask them.
They asked the dogs. The dogs told them.
They don't know. They don't know if they feel nausea unless
they did. They probably tested it on a husky.
And the husky was like, I'm nauseous. Why? Do huskies talk? I don't understand.
Huskies totally talk. That's the joke.
No.
They whine at you, but that was a husky joke.
Okay.
I don't have a husky, but I wanted to do a husky joke.
I don't know dog breed jokes. You have a husky?
No, I wouldn't mind having a husky.
Yeah, I like those. I think they're like really difficult. Like they're very intelligent. You have to train them. I feel like that would be good for you to have like what would get you on a schedule? A dog.
A dog. Yeah, well, I'm not allowed to have one here. I wish. One day I'm going to have a dog for sure. But anyway.
Would you get a dog or a cat first?
I've had cats. I love both.
Yeah, me too.
I could go with either. I'd love to have a dog sometime.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did this thing. Yeah, it's good money. So lets me continue doing the things I want to do, like pursuing the arts. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to go do a weird 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. It takes up all my time and energy and happiness. So,
well, that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah. Other than that, just pursuing my filmmaking career, my writing. Hopefully I have more to share on that front soon.
Yeah.
But why don't we jump into ego? When you were telling me your story there, and I was telling you like, oh my God, that's so great that, you deserve that praise. Good for you. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of something involving my ex-girlfriend, Z. It just reminded me of a conversation that we had, because one of the things that she would do, and she could tell you this, right? If I was feeling down about something, if I was feeling like, oh no, like I might not succeed at this or that, and I'm a little depressed about it, she would go out of her way to try to make me feel better and say, no, you can do this. You're really good at this. You're really good at that.
Oh, that's nice.
As people often do. Yes. But if I came to her and I was like, look, I just got this award and I just did really well at this thing, and I just made this movie, I just wrote this script, she would do the opposite. And then
like to humble you?
And she would often try to bring me down. She would try to bring me down.
How?
She would just try to, what do you mean how? You can imagine all the
like, what's an example? Well, what do you say to someone like, I just won this award? Oh, that's nice. Like, how do you, or like, oh, that's not a big deal. Like, how does someone bring you down from that?
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, lots of people win awards. I don't know.
Oh my God. That's terrible. I mean, at least pretend to care, like to be happy
No.
for you.
She purposefully didn't. She purposefully didn't. And I
Oh,
remember asking her about this at one point. I was like, certain times you seem to really want to lift me up, at other times you seem to bring me down.
she thinks there's like some perfect balance that
That's
she wants you to
exactly
get
it.
to. Is that?
She thought there was some balance that I wasn't at. And when I'd come to her, that she needed to bring me down because she thought my head was too big.
Right.
My ego was like talking. And so the problem with that, though, was she didn't understand that sometimes I wasn't coming to her because my head was so big. I was actually feeling insecure. And I would come looking for that support. I would come looking for somebody to help lift me up, and I would be kickstarting the process. You know what I mean?
Right. Like what you just did to me when I was like talking about my letter, and you were like, that's great. No, you're doing like, you're good.
Yeah. I wasn't imagining that your head was so big already. I was making jokes about it because I didn't think that your head was too big. Right. I think that you were really, really proud and happy about that.
I am. Yeah.
But it's not like you're like, of course I'm amazing and everybody would send me such a letter.
Well, not out
like,
loud.
Why hasn't this happened already? Like, there's a part of you that thinks you deserve it, I'm sure, but still. Actually, when I told her this, she actually apologized and she said she understood that. And I also understood where she was coming from. But, it was a misunderstanding, too, of where that was coming from. And it wasn't just coming from having a big head. It made me think about that and that idea of like heaping praise on somebody and worrying that you're causing them to have, to feed their ego, as we say.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the difference between how it feels to talk about, like to be like, oh, I won this thing, or oh, someone said this thing, and how it might seem from the outside. Like someone could easily interpret that as like, look at this person with their big head bragging about all this stuff. But it's like, really, they're there like, I did this thing. Do you think I'm good enough to have done this? Like, are you going to validate me right now, or are you going to, there's
such a weird relationship we have with this in society. Like we want people, I feel like Z there, her whole thing was a microcosm of this thing in society where we want to lift people up when they're down, but we want to
pull them down when they're,
we want to pull them down when they're up, because we have this idea that, oh no, they're too, we just attribute a lack of modesty and a lack of humility.
Right.
I think it's also because we don't understand what humility really is. We can talk about humility a little bit too, but we often think of humility as honestly just somebody who doesn't say that they're so great. It doesn't mean that they don't feel it, or they don't, or is humility thinking that you're not so great?
Right. Because if they're too self-deprecating, then it's like, oh, that's too much humility. Like that's being negative.
Is humility just lying? Like, what is humility exactly? Like, I think I'm amazing, but I'm just going to act like, no.
Well, I imagine that that's not the only case where someone has accused you of having a big head, Josh.
No, I don't get accused of that very often, thankfully.
Oh, okay. No, I think that people in your profession have to be a little bit, don't take this the wrong way.
Self-promoting.
You're good at self-promotion. Yeah. And some people might interpret that as like, or again, don't take this the wrong way.
There's a good chance when someone starts off by saying, don't take this the wrong way.
I know.
I'm prepped to take that.
Okay, you're allowed to take it the wrong way, but I don't mean it in a bad way. You're highly verbose. I don't know how to say you talk a lot in a nicer way. I'm sorry.
You said it in both ways. There you go.
Like, but it's such a genuine, like,
you know what I like about the word verbose?
You're doing it while what is it, Josh?
You're saying someone talks a lot in fewer words.
Okay, well, that works. I think you're like genuinely just excited. To me, you're like a little kid who's just like overflowing with energy and excitement about life and all these things. And sometimes it might come across as maybe because we knew each other as children. I think like to a stranger, you might come across as like, who is this guy? Like, is he talking about himself? But it's like, of course, like lots of people talk that the thing you know the best is yourself, right? So of course you're going to talk about yourself.
I've mentioned this before, like me and like my best friend back home, Roman, and I, we grew up together and we grew together, right? And kind of bouncing off each other. And he and I, the way we would always talk to each other is we just talk at each other constantly, right? And I kind of didn't learn right off the bat to just ask and dig. Obviously, I would ask questions and stuff when I talked to him, but I didn't need to because he would just tell me.
Oh,
things.
I see.
And I was the same way. If there was anything to talk about, be like, hey, dude, this is just what happened today.
Right.
And then I realized not everybody's like that. Like if there was something for him to share, he was just going to share it.
You never had to give him an opening to talk about.
Yeah, we were so open with each other. Other people are not so open.
Yeah.
And I had to kind of learn that. I just kind of assumed and Bill. If there's something they're going to tell me, they'll tell me. I'd love to talk about it. I'd love to listen.
Yeah.
I'd had to learn how to be a better question asker, actually.
And you have. You're much better now than you were as a 6-year-old.
I've actually worked at that. Also because I am curious about people. So that journey to become a better question asker wasn't the hardest for me either. By the way, just bouncing back to the humility thing, because I think I was trying to define humility really quickly. I think that's a hard one. I think that's why we skipped it. And we can even talk about that in another episode if we wanted.
Yeah, we'll have a whole episode on humility.
Maybe. But I just remember one of the best kind of definitions for humility or understanding of what that is came from a rabbi back in London. And he had said that humility isn't thinking that you aren't that good or not, skilled in the thing that you're skilled in or whatever it is. It's understanding that comes from, it's not all coming from me. It's understanding that there's a higher power above you. And I can see your face right now. I get it. Okay. There's a higher power. I'm telling you what the rabbi said. Hold up.
I know. Right? Why are you giving me rabbi quotes?
Because rabbis are smart, all right?
Sometimes.
They can be,
I'll listen.
Often. They're very learned people,
I'm learned.
Yeah, you are.
I've been in school for many years.
Sounds like your ego is getting affected right now, Aya.
Well, like
you're responding out of ego. Are you responding out of ego right now, or are you responding out of maybe there's something for me to learn here, even though this doesn't sound like it's on my heart?
Maybe there's something for me to learn here. Let's hear it.
So he said, it's understanding that this isn't all coming from me. There's a higher power that we can attribute, that is responsible for some of this. If I'm really, really good at sports, I worked really hard for it, but it's also to understand, God gave me this body and this ability and a good family. So, okay.
I mean, it is.
Now, why do I like that, right?
Okay, let's take out the God part, because we could say that, like, yes, you are not solely responsible for your achievements. Like, maybe your parents, or maybe your siblings, or maybe your teachers, or maybe just your circumstances. The fact that you were born where you were born, when you were born, makes everything, and the way that you were, like, your health, all of those things. I understand.
You're getting to what I was going to get to.
Okay, but why God? Why can't you just say circumstances?
Oh my God.
Or something?
Okay, obviously our rabbi's going to come.
Obviously
the rabbi's going to come from the God perspective, right? But it's the same idea.
Okay, fine,
right?
Fine.
Whether it's God, whether it's a higher power, or just an understanding that it's not all I, me. Like, what is ego? What does the word ego mean?
It means I. It comes from the Latin for I.
Right? Okay, so this is what we're getting at right here, right? That is the ego getting in the way when we're saying I am responsible for all of this success that I have. It's all me. I'm amazing. And it's an important thing to recognize that it's not all happening in a vacuum, whether it's because of your family, whether it's because of your socioeconomic circumstances, whether it's because of your genetics, whether it's because of the other people who
combination of all
support you in life. It's usually a combination of all these different things. So humility, I think, and actually, this rabbi helped convey this to me, this meaning of humility, even if I don't always necessarily use the specifics of saying it's God. Humility is recognizing that it's not just you. It's recognizing that your successes and your achievements, are built upon a foundation that was contributed to by those around you. That's why, and then when you start saying, oh, no, don't, please don't, I appreciate that.
But I say, come on. Yeah. Give me more. Yes, please. Let's hear it.
Or we use humor to get out of it and say, like, oh, please heap the praise on me.
Yeah.
Keep it coming. I could use it today. I don't know if I explained that very well, but
no, I think you did. I mean,
I think those two are very linked.
I get it. Like, I think that it's essentially just recognizing that you're not the only reason that you are the way you are. You're not the only reason that you got to what you got.
Yeah, you're a percentage.
You're one part of an equation that got you to where you are. I get it.
Some people, instead of saying God, they might say the universe or whatever, although that's
both of those are annoying. But I understand the meaning.
I don't feel like being so anti-God today. I'm sorry, Aya.
Oh, right? I'm in such an anti-God mood just because, like think of the ego on that guy. Like, in the Old Testament, he's like, I am your only God. He's such a jerk. Like, relax, buddy. I'm your only God. You're not allowed to look at other gods. He's like a jealous jerk.
Is it really about that?
He's like a controlling. Yes, it's that bad.
Or is it really for you?
So bad. Yeah. I was so relieved to discard my belief in God.
I feel like I know what the rabbi would say to you about that, but I'm not the rabbi, so...
What would he say to me?
No, that's another episode.
Please, Josh, be a proxy.
We got to bring a rabbi onto this, and then I want you to respond the exact same way.
No, I don't want to sit and offend someone's beliefs.
No, it's not going to offend them, because they're obviously, like anybody, if you believe...
But they love talking about that stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want to talk about it with them.
Well,
they enjoy it too much. They're like, ooh, a non-believer. Let me latch on. Like, I don't want to listen to that.
Well, because obviously it's not coming from a place of, especially the rabbis and, the other Jews that we know, their belief systems are not just coming from faith for them, right? It's coming from a sense of logic, something that they've studied and learned. Whether or not that logic holds up is up for debate.
Yeah.
But it is coming from an education.
Okay.
I can't speak for someone else because you still think it's me talking. I can see your face.
All right. What size ego is best? No, we're talking about.
Let's go back a second because
let's do a definition.
Let's define ego a little bit more.
Let's define it.
Yeah. What do people often think when you say ego? Like, what comes up?
Well, I think people, like, generally when you say ego, you're referring to, insert definition here, a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance.
And if someone has a big ego, then they have like an inflated sense of self-esteem or self-importance, right?
Yeah, they got a big head.
Yeah.
They're full of themselves. They start every sentence with I do this, I do that.
So you would say that bigger is not better.
Oh my God. Yeah, bigger in this case, not better. I think in many cases, bigger is not necessarily better. We're talking about like houses and stuff, right? Like you don't need that big a house. You don't need that big a car. Like just take up a normal amount of space.
I don't know.
You don't need a bigger mug of coffee.
I mean, I don't know. This is America that I live in, at least.
Yeah.
And bigger is better here. Okay.
It's like
you gotta supersize everything.
In Community when they're like, how is this a child size pop? And it's like this giant tub of soda or pop.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. And they're like, oh, it's roughly the size of a small child. That one always gets me.
In Europe, or when I went there, I remember their large is like our small here in America.
Yeah. Nobody needs that much. You don't need that much soda.
I do though.
But that's why people there are supersized. Like that's why you guys are, not you specifically, I don't know. I can only really see your neck up, but like that's why obesity is such a pandemic there. Like everything's bigger is better
Canada's not much better, okay?
It's a little better.
It's not much better. It's the same thing.
I don't think so.
The extra large is also in Canada, okay?
It's not the same size.
You can supersize things at McDonald's.
It's not. Oh, are you talking about obesity or sizes of drinks? Or are we talking about both?
I thought they were related. Weren't you just relating them?
I mean, there's probably a direct correlation. Let's see.
Oh my God.
In Canada versus the US. Okay, yeah. Among men, the prevalence of obesity was over 8 percentage points lower in Canada than in the United States. So 24.3% compared with 32.6%. And among women, more than 12 percentage points lower, 23.9% compared with 36.2.
It's a little bit better. Also, healthcare is better there. So whatever.
That's true. I knew you would say that. And I agree with you. That is true.
Yeah.
They go to the doctor and the doctor says being obese is not good for you. And then they say, oh, okay, I guess I'll have a medium Coke. Yeah.
So having an inflated sense of ego is also associated with things like narcissistic tendencies, naturally.
You love talking about narcissists.
A superiority complex and being self-absorbed.
I think I have those.
So when someone has a big ego, again, I, me. Actually, it even says, I'm reading a bit of an article here from Psychology Today. And it says, in other words, if a person has a big ego, it means that they are very caught up in me, mine, and I.
Do I have that? Can we do a test to find out if I'm a narcissistic asshole?
Now, I'd love to talk about narcissism as its own topic sometime.
Okay.
I mean, that's a big topic. We're obviously going to touch on a little bit of narcissism, but having an ego or having a bigger ego doesn't necessarily mean that you are a narcissist, but then narcissistic tendencies start to creep in the bigger your ego is. Now, I also think having a big ego, is it something you always have? Is it something you could just have in the moment? These are questions too. You can act with a big ego in one circumstance and not in another. Like, right. I don't think I have a big ego when I'm swimming, like I'm a
terrible swimmer.
Yeah, me too. I can crap on my swimming all day long, but when it's something that I really is core to who I think that I am, something that I define myself with, I think that's where ego can start to creep in a little bit.
Right.
So for example, I define myself as a storyteller, right? I think of myself as
oh my God. Oh, sorry. I know it's not, I'm so sorry.
Are you trying to trigger my ego right now? What are you doing?
No, can I just say something? I don't know what it is in like the past 5 to 10 years, like people saying, I consider myself a storyteller is like, I've heard it way too much.
What?
Everyone.
I haven't heard
like
this. What are you talking
psychologists, Yeah, they're always saying everybody's
What?
saying they consider themselves a storyteller. Oh, it's really about storytelling.
Well, as someone who actually studied, I have a degree in
I know.
neuroscience
Okay.
and
No, it's
filmmaking.
not.
I feel like I can actually say I define myself as a storyteller.
I know. Yeah, you can say it. Those people can say it too. It's just, it happens a lot and it annoys me. And I don't know why. And I'm sorry, Josh. This isn't about you. I'm so sorry. You're trying to tell me something. Go ahead. I just wanted to share that.
Also, a lot of people are so afraid of having or being considered to have an ego about something that.
Well, there's such a thing as having a healthy ego.
Yes.
There's
Is there?
A word? Oh, a healthy ego. Yeah, healthy ego. I think so. Let's go.
It's not good to have no ego. Can you have no ego?
Well,
can you remove the I being mine?
Well, there's something called ego death or ego dissolution, which some people actually strive for through things like meditation. It's kind of a more sort of mystical thing where you lose that sense of the self as me and you see yourself more as part of the world.
It sounds more like it's an attempt.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like it's more of a transcendent.
It's a perspective that you try to reach because it's.
Well, people who meditate really intensely would say, no, you do feel it. But
well, it's hard to remove yourself from you because you are you. So it's really it's got to be a perspective.
Well, no, I mean, you're talking about the physical, but the idea that I live as me, separate from everyone else and separate from the world, is, they would say, like an illusion. That's the illusion of the self. So if you meditate enough, if you maybe take LSD, you would feel yourself connected to everything.
If you give yourself enough brain damage,
well,
you might not consider yourself. I mean, I have this belief.
See, you're not taking this seriously.
No, I'm taking it seriously.
To me, this has more like, this is better than like, God's behind everything. God is.
No, this is good stuff. And I am taking it seriously. I just don't know if you can I think it might be lying to think that you can completely remove it. For example, I don't believe there's such a thing as total selflessness, complete selflessness. I think that anything that we do, any intended action, I think we've talked about this before.
We have intention. What is it? Self-interest versus selflessness.
Yeah, I do believe that it's ultimately self-interested, right? It doesn't mean that it's selfish. Selfish is just, taking all the cookies in a jar. That's selfish. But recognizing that leaving the cookies for other people around you, we say, oh, is that selfless? Well, actually, I think that's in your best self-interest, but it is still it's recognizing that it is good for you to give to others. So even in that, right, you're not removing the I, you're just putting that I into a better perspective, into a society, into a community.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm referring to, I think, is usually more in like spiritual disciplines where they're like, the goal is to feel like you're one with everything and you don't see another person as someone else, but you see them as part of the same.
Well, then you're still I. There's still an I in there.
Yeah, technically maybe, but you stop. Yeah, you know what? I'm not an expert on that either. I'm just trying to tell you that exists. That's it.
See how hard it is when you're trying to tell me about something else, and I start attributing it to you.
Yeah, what an asshole.
Obviously, there's something important in there, right? This idea of trying to remove the ego, at least, or minimizing the ego, because the ego. I think we can talk about how the ego there's a benefit of having an ego there, obviously, but it gets in the way a lot, right? And it gets in the way, in my opinion, of growth.
Okay.
Because what does the ego want to do? The ego tends to deny weakness. Like it doesn't want to look inferior, right? People have a big ego. They say they have a superiority complex, right? So if you are to look inferior in some way, your ego kicks in and goes, no, like
someone like Trump, who's always just like, I'm the best. I'm the best word. I have the best words or whatever. It's like, can you just admit that you need some help?
Well, he's a pure narcissist, right? He would tell you that he's an amazing, if it was about swimming, he would tell you he's the best at that too. It doesn't matter what it is.
The best swimmer. I don't know how to do that. I don't want to do a Trump impression anymore. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Okay.
There's no better swimmer than I. There's other swimmers out there and they all say, Donald, you're the best swimmer. I've seen you do the backstroke. I've seen you do the butterfly. Butterfly is a real swimming technique. You might have heard of it. I'm done.
It's okay. I mean, it's a lot better. I don't know. Do it, so
depends on the day, right?
Yeah. No, it's not bad.
Okay, so superiority complex for people with a big ego, but the ego gets in the way.
Often behind that, there's very low self-esteem as well. Is that what you're saying? Like,
no, I wasn't actually going to say that. Well, it depends.
Okay.
Sometimes it kicks in because there's a fear. Actually, what I read is that ego denies weakness. It doesn't say that you totally believe that there is none. It's literally denying something that you probably underneath that, is there. It's like this protective layer that you have to try to fight back this insecurity that you have. But here's the problem. We need to recognize those flaws, those weaknesses, if we want to grow. how do we improve on ourselves if we don't accept that they're there in the first place?
Yeah.
Right. I've worked with actors, for example, that have a pretty big ego.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it happens often.
Did you have one who was like, I do everything in 3 takes is the maximum it'll take me, or something like that?
Yes, exactly. There was a girl once who said that. She said, it's only going to take me 3 takes maximum, and then I have it. You'll never need another take from me. And I literally, in order to work with her, I had to put the blame for any problems on me. I was like, oh, yeah, unfortunately, it might take longer because of technical issues. And again, like, it was
that's so weird.
It's ridiculous. The fact that her brain was saying that, like, there's no possible way that she could err in some way or not understand what I was trying to say or want from her. Anyway, that's definitely an inflated ego right there, or inflated sense of self-importance. I've also had it where I've worked with actors who, when you try to tell them that maybe they didn't do something quite the way that you wanted, they take that as a personal attack. And now they start attacking you back and trying to tell you how you as a director messed up and how you as a director didn't do a good job in explaining, or that's not what you asked of them. They did exactly what you asked of them. So clearly it's your fault. The thing is, when I'm trying to make a movie, I don't give a shit whose fault anything is.
Yeah, you just want it done.
My initial reaction to that has always been, oh, yeah, absolutely. You might be right. Maybe it's me. Maybe I didn't give you a good answer. Well, just so you know, it was you and it wasn't me.
Oh my God.
Sure.
Okay, good to know. I'm never hiring you again. Bye. Yeah.
It's happened before. And the thing is, it gets in the way of, I'm watching a performance that isn't coming across right, whether it's my fault or their fault. They're going to be on screen later. And if we don't get this to where it needs to be, people are going to be able to watch that, just go, oh, that's not very good. So did their ego help them in this case? Is it helping them become a better actor?
No, it's not.
Is it helping them look better on screen and
it's not helpful.
Help them in their career in any way? It's getting in the way. I literally had to push past their ego and work around that in order to get their performance better. Ironically, if I succeeded that, they're probably going to watch and go, aha, my ego was working for me.
And you're like, no, it was mine.
Actually, it was me minimizing my ego.
Right.
And that's what I think, when you're talking about ego death and all that stuff, I don't know if that's fully possible. Maybe it is for some people. I don't know. But I do know that it's good to kind of get your ego out of the way when you want to see results. Your ego is not helping you see results. Does it matter if your idea is the best idea? Or does it matter if the best idea is the best idea? If you're working in a group and you want to make sure that you guys as a group win, that you have the best presentation or project or whatever it is you're doing, take the best idea. Don't just take your idea. Your ego is going to tell you that your idea is the best, right? That's an inflated ego right there. That's when you want to
work on it.
Be like, shut up, ego.
Yeah, some balance would be helpful in that case.
Yeah. Well, do you agree with that? Is there a case where it is good to have more of an ego?
Well, I think it can get in the way to constantly question. It's a good thing to question yourself, but it's also a good thing to have enough of a healthy sense of self-esteem. Self-esteem is essentially what you want. Healthy self-esteem, so you don't need that outside validation all the time, because I think a lot of the time when we talk about someone having a big ego, we're talking about someone who either acts so self-important that they don't care what anyone else wants, or they're often kind of overcompensating for that low self-worth or low self-esteem. At least that's how I see it sometimes. So I know I'm thinking of one person that uses I a lot in sentences, and she'll be like, she tells the same stories over and over again. She'll be like, oh, when I was doing this, I did this and it was like this. And it's like, nobody asked you. And she almost acts like she's always in an interview, like in a job interview. And it's like, no one asked you. I've already heard this story. Like, I'm not sure. And I think it's her kind of repeating the same things over and over again to try to almost like tell herself those things and to like reinforce what she wants other people to think of her. Because I think ego is a lot about what other people think of you. It's not about how you think of yourself. Someone who is comfortable with themselves doesn't necessarily care who is the one who was wrong. In your example,
it's worrying what other people think of you, is what you're saying.
It's worrying so that girl insisting, no, but you're the one whose fault it was that this was wrong. Their ego cares very much that you know whose fault it was and that it wasn't theirs.
Yeah.
They care that everyone around
is more about everybody watching around.
Yeah. Whereas someone who's comfortable with themselves has like a healthy ego or healthy self-esteem is like,
I mean,
I'm fine with whatever happened. I just want the best outcome kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, this is a good example again. Yeah, going back to that, this actress, I remember it was important that everybody around heard this. And to me, that was very embarrassing, right? Or it could be very embarrassing if I was focused on that. If at any point, like I couldn't take that, I could have said, you know what, never mind, the take is great. Let's move on. That would have hurt all of us. It was really hard to work with that. You know, actually, this person, I have worked with them again since. I actually talked to them about this and things have gotten better since then. So this specific example is one where I, you know, not just to say this is a person who's like this, I think people do have the ability to grow and acknowledge these things. A pure narcissist, I don't think they do. Not really. Donald Trump isn't really, I don't know if he's speaking from a place of insecurity underneath it all. I don't know. I think he actually thinks these things. It's delusion. It's real delusion. I think you're right sometimes. Sometimes people are actually using that to cover up the insecurity, and other times it's a full-on delusion. In this case, I relate or contrast this actress, for example, with another actor I've worked with who it's like the opposite, where, you know, I'm like, let's do another take. And he immediately thinks, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Please tell me how I can improve. I'd love to hear it. I don't want to mess this thing up for you. And it's like, you're great. I just want I just want to try it another way. See if it, you know, we'll have two different options. You know, it's all right. You can tell me if there's something I didn't.
Oh, man.
It's, you know, this guy, he's the sweetest person on the planet, you know, but he actually could stand to have a little more self-esteem.
Right. Because then you're not always trying, because it's kind of hard work to lift people up constantly too. Either you're like navigating around a giant ego or you're trying to like pull them up a bit so that they're functioning. You know? It
is a balance, I think, that we are always looking for in ourselves and in general. And I think society does a lot of things to, I don't know, to make this harder, right? The way that we see news articles about celebrities, and
I think like what you said about your ex being kind of a microcosm for what the world does. I think you're right. Like either, oh, look how humble they are, even though they're amazing. But if they think they're amazing, even if they are amazing, that's not okay. Like, you know, there's supposed to be some.
Exactly. Is it okay to think that you're amazing if you're amazing?
I mean,
there's some people who get away with it. Like, look at Russell Brand. I feel like Russell Brand's one of those guys who can be like,
he's such
yeah, you might think that, but some people they're like, if he's like, I think, like, amazing. Some people respect people for saying that.
Who's that rapper that says he's amazing? What's his face?
Oh, Kanye West.
Yeah, that guy.
Kanye West is a narcissist, right? Definitely is dealing with some mental illness, right? He's got some huge delusions. He and Donald Trump have a lot in common in many ways.
Yeah. So, I mean, there is something about having a healthy ego. Also, we didn't even mention that ego is often used with psychoanalysis. Freud. Let's shit on Freud a bit. So, like,
let's shit on Freud for a second, because a lot of the ego has a more, I would say, scientific kind of terminology to it, but it's not actually.
Let's call it. It's psycho.
I wouldn't call Freud scientific.
Psychoanalysis. And that's what it is. I mean, like, and I don't think that this is his worst idea. Like, it kind of makes sense to think of the brain this way. Like, you have the superego, the ego, and the id.
Yeah.
So the id is like all the unconscious needs, desires, all that
stuff. The child like instinct. I want this, I want that, with no sort of
higher order thinking, kind of no.
Yeah, there's no critical thinking about that stuff. It's just
I want. This is
what I want. Like you're a toddler.
Instinct, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then the superego is like society. This is what is the proper thing to do.
These are the laws.
This is what people will think. In like, it's supposed to be in like a pro-social society kind of way. And then you've got the ego that mediates between the two.
Word. Yeah. So, example, this person is angering me. I want to murder them. The id might say, right?
Yeah.
And the superego says, the law says that murder is illegal. And so I recognize that is not something we can do, but I want to, but we can't, but according to the law, and the ego mediates between the two.
Yeah.
What might the ego say there?
Well, the ego is supposed to mediate between the conscious and the unconscious. So the conscious being the superego. I don't know. The ego might say, I don't know. What am I in?
Obviously, you can't murder anybody here because they're upsetting you, but
maybe I'll poop in their pancakes. I don't know.
Wow. Maybe the ego would say that. I don't know if the ego would be right, but it's guess it's better than murder. It's mediating. I don't know if it would find an exact compromise, Aya. Anyway, whatever. It's Freud. Freud had ideas and they were the basis for it was the basis of what psychology is today. It doesn't mean that everything he said is accurate, but his
Lots of stuff is nothing. Is like
in fact, much of what he said is
craziness.
not accurate,
So
and
much
it's not based in
craziness.
science. It's just these pie in the sky ideas that he had. But the way that he thought about things, that way he looked at mental health and the brain and all that stuff, it did help propel us forward in the field.
Okay. Well, that's
But that doesn't mean
so
that
we didn't really shit on Freud. We just more said like there are some interesting.
No, we can shit on Freud's ideas still. You know, you want to talk about the Oedipal complex and all that stuff that
my God, that stuff's so crazy.
Electra complex. Yeah, he has these ideas.
Penis envy. I do have a little bit of penis envy, just in that you guys can like pee everywhere. It's just, I envy that. Other than that, I'm fine.
There's advantages and disadvantages of all of these things.
Yeah.
I have vagina envy.
Well,
in some ways.
You should.
Yeah.
Do you have uterus envy? You can never carry a baby.
I don't know if I envy that.
You don't want to go through like 9 months of horrible discomfort and then like traumatic experience of pushing a little human out.
You know, now that I think about it, very much envy that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't envy it. No, I mean,
no pain, no gain.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I can get those parking spots.
What are those? Yeah, those stupid parking spots with like the little I procreated, I deserve a better parking spot. Come on.
I mean, it's not because you just procreated. I think it's because you're literally a bit disabled.
Well, it's also got like little strollers. Like, screw you. Who cares? I don't know. Like, I
like these Aya takes. I think we just need to have a section that's like, and now for an Aya take. And then we get to have you just comment on something in society. You really need to be doing this as a stand-up because...
I mean, this is a very unintelligent... Like, I'm just complaining that new mothers have parking spots. That's craziness.
Oh,
also,
they get to have somebody's spot on a bus. I read this Am I the Asshole Reddit bit recently about... Did you see this?
Reddit? Did you read it?
I know. I do read Reddit. I just never post in Reddit.
I don't post either. Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Am I the Asshole? It's one of the best.
Yeah. It was basically this girl who didn't give up her bus seat to a pregnant woman who like basically demanded it from her.
Oh my God.
And she was like, I recently hurt my knee. Like she was recovering from something and she could hardly stand on it. But the pregnant woman was just like, you seem fine. Like, I'm pregnant. You should be giving me your seat. You're young.
Screw you, pregnant lady.
And then the person behind this girl was like blaming her, like, why didn't you give up your seat for her? And it's like,
oh my God.
Everyone in the Reddit there is like, why didn't he give up his seat?
Yeah, who is this guy? No, that's ridiculous. I mean, I get it's not always a choice to bear children, but like, come on, like, boo-hoo. I mean, I've never been pregnant, so I guess I can't really... I can say whatever I want. Yeah. Oh, boo-hoo, I'm carrying a baby.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Can we talk about something really quickly? Speaking of ego yet again.
Yeah.
So our mutual friend who we've had on the podcast twice.
Oh, Amanda Bell.
Had a baby.
Amanda had her baby. We should probably... This is a really weird segue to bring that up after what you just said.
Oh yeah, Amanda knows. I was just thinking of pregnant people, and then I was like, oh, I shouldn't say this because there's probably pregnant people that I really like. And then I was like Amanda. Wait, Amanda had a baby. Oh my God.
You just shit all over pregnant people, and then you're like, oh my God, her friend just had a baby. She did. It's very cute.
I could separate those things. I can compartmentalize. I'm not thinking of this pregnant lady and thinking of my lovely friends who've been there's like angry, annoying public bus lady demanding a seat, and then there's like my friend who had a baby, so it's just different. But yeah, her name, I'm super excited. So Amanda texted me like, hey, just so you know, our first choice for the name is Ayelet, which is my name for anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah, Aya is short for Ayelet.
And I think they're calling her Aya as short.
Oh my gosh.
So I have a little like name buddy.
Look at that. Named after you.
Isn't that cute?
You don't ever need to have a kid now.
Okay. Well, yeah, she'll carry on the family name. You know what's fun? So like, obviously I realized that Amanda did not name her child after me, but there is something to be said for like, usually if you come up with a name and you know someone with that name, it's usually like, I don't want, like if I was going to have a kid and someone was like, let's name it Josh, I'd be like, like I know a Josh. I don't want to name a kid Josh.
So the fact that she named a kid knowing that she had a friend named Aya and still named the kid Aya makes you feel like, wow, I must be amazing.
Well, it's like she must not hate me at all. I don't know, like she must not.
Wait, are you saying that there's a little bit of you that hates me?
Yes, that's how that came out. No. I mean, like she must.
Ignore that.
I don't know. I don't know how else to put it. Like, I realized that it was because they liked the name, but like at some point, if you don't like the person who has the name, or even
exactly. Yeah, no matter how much you like the name Donald.
Exactly. It's ruined forever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or even just like, I'm just kidding, Josh. I would I wouldn't name a kid Josh, but like maybe I would. I wouldn't not name a kid Josh. Oh my God. That was the worst. That was the worst.
I love the hole that you're in right now.
Yeah, I don't know how to dig myself out. Like, I can think of a few people who I'd be like, I know that person, and I'm still okay naming my kid after that with their name.
Yeah.
You know, so like I felt like, oh, you don't hate me. Not like you like me, but like,
okay. So
anyways,
public mazel tov, congratulations to Amanda.
This is not about me. This is about Amanda
and
little baby Aya.
Little baby Aya. Ayelet.
Yeah.
Because last time we had her on, she was talking about pregnancy and being pregnant and life-changing events. And I guess she just experienced a pretty massive life-changing event. And I hope it's going great for her. And we'll hopefully talk to her soon about that.
That was very like professional of you, Josh.
That was so professional.
Oh my God. Yeah. You're like, Aya's in a hole of her own making. I'm going to just professional out of it.
That's right. I was trying to do that.
Yeah.
Speaking of ego getting in the way of growth. No, I was just thinking about famous people where that happens.
Yeah.
You know who I was actually just thinking about?
Who's that?
Vladimir Putin.
I did think of him when we suggested ego. I don't think of him as like a famous, I guess he is a famous person. He's not a celebrity.
Well,
he's infamous more than famous.
Now he's more infamous than anything, for sure.
I mean, he was kind of infamous before, like KGB agent, blah, blah, blah.
That's true. No, he's not a good guy, for sure. He's definitely mass murdering Ukrainians right now. It's a whole thing. We won't get into the whole conflict, but I was just thinking about the way in which, I don't know if you've been hearing some of the behind the scenes there and his decision to invade Ukraine in the first place. So Putin is an autocrat, right? He's a dictator. He is ruling kind of with an iron fist. And when people cross him, I mean, when opposition crosses him, for example, he has them poisoned and killed. There's that one guy, this critic, Navalny, I think that he like poisoned and survived. And now they're worried they're still going to go after him.
Like the journalist?
Was it a journalist? I don't know, it was a critic. I don't know if maybe he was a journalist.
There's so many.
Yeah, exactly. He poisons and kills people all the time, opposition, but also people in his own party if they disappoint him. Like you've seen any movie about any evil villain leader.
Yeah, he's like,
right?
And then he just has this like little evil chuckle, like, he'll probably rot in jail.
Like, you disappoint me. What you say, you spend 10 years in prison in Siberia. We let you go up there. You have a fun time. Think about what you've done.
How many episodes have you been waiting to get your Russian accent in?
Now I feel like it was actually worthwhile to throw that Russian accent in there. So Putin obviously punishes and threatens the people around him that are closest to him when they disappoint him as well. And you can imagine how this, I can say, it contributes to, you know, an inflated ego, or maybe it's because he had an inflated ego in the first place. But he obviously thinks he's like hot shit, right? He's the amount of power this guy has. I mean, he's in control of more nukes than anybody in the entire world. Russia has more nukes than the United States. Yeah. They can destroy the entire world. This one man has the power to destroy the world. So yeah, he probably thinks he's pretty great. This is where I think his ego can actually get in the way. You think of this guy who has this kind of power, and the Russian military is supposed to be pretty great, they say, and they go and invade Ukraine. Ukraine to Russia is like Canada to the United States.
Well, we were never part of the same.
I don't mean,
it's a little different.
That's not what I mean.
We were not part of a American Union at one
I don't mean
point.
the history.
That's my version of the Soviet Union.
Yes, Ukraine once upon a time was part of the Soviet Union. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean, It's a country that is adjacent to it that is much smaller. Like Ukraine has
smaller than the US.
Canada, yes, it is in terms of people.
It's more like German and Austria.
Oh my God,
I'm just saying, like, it's not really the same.
It's the same. Let me explain how it's the same. All right. It's not exactly the same, obviously. I'm explaining a similarity. Okay, all right.
Fine.
Canada has 38 million people and Ukraine has 43 million people. They're about the same population-wise. I don't know if you realize this. And you have this massive superpower. Like if America were to invade Canada, it's like this massive superpower Russia has invaded Ukraine.
I see what you're saying.
It's much, much smaller.
Okay.
It's like a foregone conclusion. You're thinking, wow, Russia's totally going to annihilate Ukraine and no one's doing anything. I mean, we're trying to help give weapons here and there, but like everyone's afraid to get in the way. Why? Because
nobody wants to piss off Putin and make him...
Because he has nukes and he can destroy the world.
Essentially. Because like why...
Even if it's unlikely.
It was pissing me off too, like that they weren't just declare a no-fly zone. I didn't realize initially that declaring a no-fly zone means you actually have to like destroy you actually end up attacking Russia.
Yeah, that can cause World War III.
You have to go into there.
Start a war directly.
You have to enforce the airspace. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. So I do understand that. But it does feel, it is frustrating to be like a spectator watching this happen and nobody's doing it.
Yeah, and being like, wow, there's nothing we can do. But here's the amazing thing. The Ukrainians have been holding off the Russians. Mm-hmm. Not only have they been holding them off, they've inflicted massive, massive casualties on the Russians.
Yes, but...
And yes, someone explained it like this to me. It is a tragedy for Ukraine, but it's a disaster for Russia.
But Russia has so many, they're just sending more. They don't, Putin doesn't care about his people. He's just sending more of them out there and then just blaming Ukraine in the propaganda so that the Russians who just lost their sons are just...
You're saying he doesn't care, but here's the thing. So the amount of sanctions that, the word sanctions, obviously, people are like, well, what are sanctions? Is that really going to do anything? But the sanctions on Russia right now are insane. It's like the worst sanctions anyone's ever received ever.
But it's not hurting him or his oligarchs.
No, it's hurting it is actually hurting the oligarchs. The oligarchs have been sanctioned too, and their yachts have been taken. And basically
a little bit, but
everybody but Putin. Yes, everybody around Putin is being squeezed, but that's putting massive pressure on him because he is still the head of a country that could rise up against him in one way or another. And yes, right now he's still pushing forward with an assault. But the amazing thing, the thing that I wanted to touch on here, and the reason I'm bringing this up, and again, we could talk more about Russia, Ukraine sometime, is the fact that, apparently these soldiers, the Russian soldiers, when they entered Ukraine, they had their backpacks didn't have extra food rations and stuff like that. They had victory uniforms, parade uniforms.
Yeah, they thought they were just going to walk in and
thought they were going to
stroll in. Them. Yeah.
Yeah, they literally thought that Ukrainians were going to throw flowers at their feet.
Oh,
and thanks for saving us.
Thank you. Yeah.
Putin, from what I've heard, literally didn't know this. He didn't have an understanding that this wouldn't happen, even though it's obvious to the rest of us. He didn't know this. And you wonder why? Why couldn't this man who's so powerful in the world know something so obvious? And what it turns out is that, and by the way, his soldiers, they were not prepared. Ukrainians are fighting for their survival. So they are doing a really great job at holding off a much larger force. And now, from what I understand, Russia's not even trying to capture Kyiv, the capital, right now anymore. They're focusing on parts of eastern Ukraine that were already contested or whatever, or that there were separatist factions, and they're actually backing off. And in some ways, the Ukrainians have won
for now. It's such a cost, but yeah.
But why? Why were they able to do this? Because there's so much larger.
Well, it's very different to be fighting for your home and to be sent out on a mission when you don't really know what you're doing necessarily.
It's not just that. It's not just that.
All right.
It's the actual organization of the Russian attack and what Putin knew and didn't know. And the thing is, it turns out his own generals, his own people, they're afraid to tell him the truth, right? Because of how he'll respond.
So they're not telling him they're not throwing flowers at our feet. They're actually shooting us.
I mean, I don't know what specifically they're lying about at what time. Okay. But throughout, they led him to believe the assault was going better than it was. They led him to believe that things are going according to plan. They led him probably to believe that we can absolutely do this assault that you want to do in the first place, when it's probably not a good idea. And yeah, they're going to respond.
Yeah, nobody wants to be the person to tell him sorry, buddy, it's not happening.
Yeah, they're going, because it's what he's wanted, right? He was 69 years old, probably wanted Ukraine for his 70th birthday. It's understandable.
He wanted Ukraine for his 70th birthday.
Yeah, he's turning 70, probably I would like Ukraine. Let's say something I would like. A nice little gift to me.
Too soon, Josh.
What do you mean? To make fun of Putin? It's never too soon.
I know. No, it's just, I don't know. I don't like thinking about it.
It's really horrible what's going on. I do think, I use humor to deal with that stuff.
I know, me too. I just, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The fact is, things are going worse for him and for Russia. I'm just going to boil it down to this, because of his ego. And this happens to a lot of leaders, of horrible leaders in history with big egos. Hitler, for example, right? Many could argue he lost actually to the Russians at the time, if you know your history, because of his ego. He wouldn't, again, what his people were telling him and what he believed he was capable of.
He wanted to be the first one to take over.
He pushed into Russia, and all his soldiers were dying of cold.
That was insanity.
Yeah, it was crazy. Into the Soviet Union. And soldiers died en masse because they didn't know how to fight over there. And when it looked like it was going bad, he still kept pushing, because what does the ego do? It denies weakness, and it doesn't ask for help because it doesn't want to look inferior. It doesn't know how to quit, right? These all apply to people like Hitler, and now we're applying to Putin in this scenario. Is he smart enough to know when to quit? Does he know how to pull his ego out of the equation enough to save himself from what this is going to do, or is it going to be his downfall? Because this could very much be his downfall. And a lot of horrible, monstrous, autocratic leaders, I do believe their ego was their downfall. And you can see how that ego led to, how they treated the people around them and how they end up lying to him because of it and telling him what he wants to hear.
Right.
Because the truth is, we need to know our flaws and weaknesses and address them and admit them, or else we can't grow. And then it ends up becoming our downfall. If we don't grow, the opposite happens. So anyway, I was relating it to obviously big world events, but we're talking about ego on the small scale, but this is ego on a large scale. Like,
no, it's true.
One man's ego and the thousands and thousands of people who are in pain and dying because of an ego.
Yeah.
So an ego can be a very scary thing, especially an inflated ego.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's an important connection, because it's not just talking about, on an individual level. I mean, an individual can make a difference, especially if that individual unfortunately has power.
Well, I just want to ask you, do you try not to listen to your ego? Does your ego kick in sometimes, Aya? Let's talk about us quickly, you and I.
I don't know. I have an ego sometimes. Like, I think that part of you that gets offended sometimes when someone tells you something is wrong and you take it as like something about me is wrong. It's like you take it as an attack as opposed to like either it's circumstantial or maybe it is something I need to work on. I have an ego about certain things. I think like what you said earlier, it's the things that I think expect myself to be good at.
That you identify with, right? It's like that's what you say you are.
Yeah. Exactly. So there are certain things where like I'm almost like afraid of criticism because it'll make me question my self-worth or something like that. Like,
right, because you attribute that to those things.
Yeah. I like to hope that I'm at least self-aware enough that I can kind of navigate that and be like, okay, this thing doesn't define me. I'm okay.
But you can even say by saying that how hard it is, right? It's difficult. It's something that is a higher type of thinking.
Yeah, there's lots of terms with egos, right? I think I have a fragile ego sometimes. Like I try to not too much, but like, I mean, if someone might say that something I think that I'm doing well is not going well, I might go on the offensive, or like it's sort of a self-protective thing. But I'm trying to be better about that. I'm aware of it at least. But
awareness is the first step.
Awareness is the first step. Yeah. I mean, whatever. I'm fine. I'm awesome. It's fine.
I love it.
I'm just kidding. That was a joke because it's funny.
I like it. Now you have to.
And then I'm being egotistical.
You know, it was clear that it was a joke, but the fact that you're overdoing it now.
I felt like I had to explain it because I was worried that people might actually think that I think that I'm awesome.
Well, why not?
Maybe I do, but not in like a way that I would say like I think I'm awesome.
Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid that people think you're awesome?
Well, because
they think that you think you're awesome.
Well, there's lots of things I could improve on, and it's like I'm aware of that. And anyone who knows me realizes that if I say I think I'm awesome, I'm joking.
Why?
I'm not like a Kanye West narcissist. Why am I joking?
Does that mean you're a narcissist? You were afraid of being considered narcissist. That's a thing, right?
Or I'm afraid that if I, like if you say that you're good at something, it's like people are primed to see that you're not. Like, oh, that person thinks they're so fucking good at that. I'm going to analyze and find, oh no, they're actually not that good. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want anyone looking for my flaws. Like, don't look at me. It's fine. Just let me sit here and be however I am.
What if it helps you grow?
Well, I don't think you need to tell someone, I think I'm awesome. Can you give me good criticism, constructive criticism now? That's not what primes people to give you constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a way to get that kind of criticism. And that's more like, hey, this is something I'm working on. Can you help me? I don't need to be like, I'm awesome. Criticize me. That's like, you're going to get the worst criticism. It's just gonna be like, no, your nose is too big and you're ugly. I don't know. Or other things. It's very specific. Josh, what about you? What do you think of your ego? Let's talk about someone else now.
Aya.
Yeah, what's up?
Well, thank you for sharing.
Oh my God.
One of the things people have told me about me, and I think it's true that I do, is that I tend to protect other people's egos. I'm very aware of other people's egos and what they're, where it comes out with them and where often it is a point of insecurity, I think, like you said. And I do that, you need a certain, it's funny, because sometimes I don't have tact with people, or I choose not to have tact. Other times I'm so tactful because I'm very aware of especially because of what I work in, right? In this industry, like I said, if I'm working with actors, you have to know how to navigate.
Yeah, actors got big egos.
Well,
Often.
a whole bunch of people in this industry, you have to know how to navigate.
And directors. Oh my God, the worst. Directors are the worst. Like,
right?
I want my vision of the world to come onto screen. Oh my God, like relax.
Yeah, they want to play God, right? How much more egotistical can you get?
Especially if they're writers and directors, they're the worst. Worst type.
We all get your joke, Aya.
Oh. And even if you find someone even one step worse, writer, director, and an actor in their own movie, like, oh my God, get over yourself.
Oh my God. So navigating people's ego, I'm going to ignore you.
So sorry, Josh.
So navigating egos is a thing, especially in my industry, but that's something that I pride myself on it. I don't know. I just find myself doing it a lot. And some people say, Josh, like, stop trying to protect their ego so much. But I'm like, you know what? Things are going to go so much smoother if you...
I love that you're being like, so you're not being egotistical, but you're like bordering on egotistical about being good with other people's egos. I'm so sorry. Continue now.
There's a reason I'm saying this. I'll bring it back.
I'm sure it all.
If I remember, if I keep getting interrupted, I'll totally forget. And then it'll just sound like I'm the egotistical loser. Or is it winner? Winner. Winning.
Oh my God.
Talking about.
Josh,
okay.
Finish your story. I'll stop interrupting you.
You've interrupted me so much, I can't remember.
Okay. You're good at navigating other people's egos. Why are you so good at this? How are you so amazing at this, Josh? Tell me.
So it's not just that, okay? I'm navigating other people's egos. And some people say, why would you do that? Why are you protecting those egos? Like, that's not your responsibility.
Yeah, I'd be like, fuck them, they're stupid egos.
And I'm thinking, well, you know what makes my job easier, right? And they're like, yeah, but you're enabling them. Like, yeah, sure, they might not blow up at you right now because you help make them feel secure in their delusional beliefs.
Yeah.
But maybe I told this actress, yeah, it was all my fault.
Yeah.
All my directing problems. Nothing about you. You're perfect. And they believed it. And then they ended up doing what I wanted.
Perfect and beautiful.
And I got what I wanted in the end. Is that the way to go? Yeah. In a time compressed moment where, we're running out of time and I need to get something out of them. Yeah, I think I made the right choice. It's good to navigate egos in that way. But in general, is that a good thing to do with everybody? Or is it good to kind of help people realize when their ego is getting in the way? If you're really...
I mean, there's a way to do that. I don't know that you can go around fixing people's egos.
But if you're a true friend with somebody and it's your friend and they're not a narcissist, they just have an ego about something, is it important for you as a friend to help them grow or, to tell them the truth and not just tell them what they want to hear? When people like I said, they told Putin what he wanted to hear, that's not good for him in the end. The thing is, they're not really his friend.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be good for them if they told him the truth, though.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not the kind of person who's going to murder my friends if they tell me that is something I need to work on. So
because I've been telling you horrible things. If you were the type to murder friends, I would be the first to go.
Similarly, I guess I navigate egos in that way with people because I understand how much it can, I empathize. I empathize with people being tactless and how much it could hurt when somebody, hits you in the insecurity.
Right.
But that said, logically, I know that I want people to do that for me, but I don't want them to do it for me all the time and recklessly. I want them to do it tactfully. Right. I want to hear it in a way that
was I supposed to be like cushioning your ego? I've never done that. Should I be a better friend?
You don't have to cushion the ego, but there's a way to
like pat it politely.
Good
ego. Good job.
There's a way not to just throw a nuclear bomb in there.
And instead there's something in between where you're just like kind of kicking it a little bit.
Because obviously I'd like to believe that I can just take any criticism anytime ever. But the truth is, yeah, we all have egos about certain things. The way that I define myself, if somebody attacks that and says I am not who I think I am, that's a lot to take.
Right.
Now, maybe that's not what they meant, but if they don't say it right, that might be how it comes off.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like, maybe you could do this a little better. You're pretty good at this thing, but I think that you're not so good when you're trying to do that thing. Well, if they can tactfully explain that to me so that I can work on that while not feeling like it just destroyed who I thought I was.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I do have issues probably in the area of, like I said, if somebody attacks me as a storyteller and says you're a shit storyteller, my ego will probably kick and be like, fuck you. I know how to tell a story.
Oh, and also to clarify, I wasn't saying that you were a bad storyteller. I was just saying it annoys me when people define themselves as a storyteller, but I understand why you would, and it makes sense that you do. And yes.
I also define myself as somebody who cares a lot about psychology and empathy. If somebody said to me, Josh, you really aren't that empathetic. I really feel like you don't.
Can you
know how to
Imagine
empathize with
someone.
somebody. I'm triggering myself just saying that because I care so much about it. But they might be right that I might not have been in the moment, but I might have been triggered if they didn't tactfully explain that to me, right?
Could you? It's very sweet that one of the worst insults you can think of someone saying to you is like, Josh, you're not empathetic. And then you're like, oh my God, my sense of self. I get it though. I would feel, well, I'd just be like, whatever, you don't know me. Fuck you. I hate you. I don't
Well,
know.
that's also, that could be an ego defense. It could be an ego defense there where someone says, fuck you, you don't know me.
I have a very aggressive ego defense.
Oftentimes we have to see the intent of the criticism, or we have to look at, it's important to look at what someone is meaning, because it's really hard to, it's a minefield to try to explain something in the right way, right? This whole podcast, I feel like, is an exercise in us trying to say things in the right way.
Yeah.
It's a skill to develop.
I feel like I never say anything. Yeah. I always want to like undo, backspace, all the things that I said.
That's why you like, writing, because writing, you can do that. But when you're talking, you can't just undo.
Yeah.
I guess I can edit out a podcast. It's a good way to do that.
Yeah, but you won't.
Sometimes.
When you're editing, I have to fight with you to take stuff out.
Because I don't want to lie. This is who we are.
All right.
These are the things we said. So anyways, to answer our question, yeah, I do have, like everybody, there's an ego there. I'm constantly monitoring it. I think it's a super important thing to do. And when people call me out on that, honestly, one of the things that I hate being called out on, whether it's true or not, is being told that I have a big ego. If someone says you're having a real ego about this thing, no one wants to be told you have such an ego, like you're being egotistical.
I feel like I kind of said that to you at the beginning of this podcast. I said that you could come off as someone who has an ego unintentionally.
Look at the tact you used right there.
Yeah, I'm really tactful.
You're careful, but also because I think there's also a difference. It is important to be tactful because there is a difference to say someone has a big ego or to say someone could come off as someone that does to other people.
Yeah. Well, I had someone tell me once, like,
what did they say, Aya?
You could tell. Someone was like, that Josh like thinks a lot of himself. And I was like, no, Josh is like the nicest person. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I'm so triggered right now, but I need to learn my own lesson right now.
But I realized
learn what the lesson is in there.
So they listened to people pleasing. And I think because you talked a lot about directing and they didn't listen to the other ones first. Yeah. So they didn't know you. And I was like, it was weird to go into like defensive because I'm used to attacking you all the time. But like, yeah, I was like, no, you have to know Josh. He's like the nicest person you'll ever meet. Like he loves everybody. He's like at people that I can't stand. He'll be like, no, you have to see the good in them. And yeah, so don't worry. And it was just like a first impression.
No, that's really important for me to know that. And this is a good exercise.
You look so sad. We're watching in action what happens when you hear. Yeah.
Here's the truth right now. I do care a lot about what other people think of me.
Yeah.
Which, flies in the face of the fact that I take a lot of like risks socially as well for someone who cares a lot about what people think of me.
But that's good. You should.
Yeah, I don't know. It's always a balance, and I don't get that balance right.
And this person listened to and then they were like, "Oh yeah. It was just like that initial impression." So don't worry about it.
Look, I talk about myself a lot. It's true, and also it's a podcast where we talk about ourselves a lot.
It's literally we're sitting here talking about ourselves. Like, if you don't want to hear us talk about ourselves, please don't listen to the podcast.
But it is important to know how we come off, and if we're doing a decent job at conveying things correctly, accurately. Now, if they might think that, and I could still think the things that makes me egotistical about, like if I think I am good at something and I just say it, I go, okay, I'm sorry, maybe it sounds egotistical, but I'm trying to be honest because I will also tell you the things I think I'm not good at. I think I'm a pretty good writer. I don't think I'm the best writer in the world. I think I'm constantly growing in that regard. Same thing with directing.
You're a very precise writer. And I trust your writing. I only know from your descriptions of the podcast. So that's what I'm basing this on.
It's funny because you know me in that regard, but I bet if you're talking to my friend Jacob, he'd be like, what?
Really?
Gosh, precise? He doesn't seem to care what word he uses. He doesn't seem to care. I don't know. It depends.
Oh my God.
It depends.
You obsess over the words. I'm like,
sometimes I do. Yeah. Anyway, that was actually very enlightening to hear.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I'll try not to dig and find out who that person was.
I need to say nothing.
No, it was.
This is what happens. I'm a little bit tired, and
it was good. It was a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
But most people say, "Oh my God, that Josh guy is so funny." That's what they say. I really like him.
Like Josh, a good solid 56% of people.
I don't talk to that many people, so yeah.
A good solid 50% of people.
Of the 2 people I've spoken to. Yeah. No.
Okay. Well,
shall we wrap this up? Leave it on that weird note of.
No, that's good. It's good to be. No. I like that you challenged my ego right there. And that's a good thing. That's what this is about.
You do it to me now. Tell me something horrible someone said about me.
Everyone always says good things about you. They say you have a great podcasting voice.
Oh, Josh, don't.
Am I just protecting your ego? Am I telling you the truth? You'll never know.
Are you just protecting my? I don't know.
You'll never know.
Tell me the truth. Give me the hard truth. Yeah.
That is the truth.
Oh, that's nice.
It is the truth. I mean, they don't know you like I do. That's the thing.
They don't know. And they don't know what you edit out.
That's true.
So let's hear it. What's your worst opinion of me?
No, I don't have a worst opinion of you. It's not.
Come
also,
on.
That's not the point. That's not the point of.
No, but I want to hear it so I can graciously take whatever criticism and incorporate it into an enhanced ego defense.
No, there's nothing. In fact, I think you're so self-critical about certain things. I think that sometimes gets in your.
Too self-critical?
Yeah, actually, that gets in your own way. It's actually the opposite fact. All these things are like, come on, Josh, criticize me. That's not what you need. It's actually the opposite. You need to know that it's okay, that people aren't going to think immediately bad of you if you say this or that thing.
That's
or
very insightful.
We don't need to cut this or that thing out.
I just assume that people will think the worst.
You know, your parents aren't going to hate you because you said this very mild truth.
I don't even care anymore if they hate me. No, I'm just kidding.
Totally care.
I do care. I remember once that rabbi that you were talking about said he was giving.
You know who I'm talking about?
I assume it was Rabbi Laser.
It wasn't. It was Mordechai Silverbread.
Oh, I don't really know him that well.
It was great. He actually said it at the university. Yeah, I liked it. I like what he was saying.
Just so that I don't sound like I hate rabbis.
I know you don't hate rabbis. I know you like to overemphasize your issues with religion sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah. So the rabbi was saying something about like, we all care what someone thinks and what our parents think. And I was like, I must have been like 17 or 18. And I remember being like, and I did like a little like kind of scoff. And he looked right at me. Like this was in a synagogue. Like I was sitting among many chairs and he looked right at me. He said, and if you reacted to that, then you probably care more than most, or you probably care more than you think, or something like that. And I just remember thinking like, oh man, that hits hard. I do care more than I would like to admit, you know.
Your ego was trying to protect you and he broke through it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't care. And he was like, that means you care even more.
Tell you, rabbis are smart.
That rabbi is fine.
Just because we don't necessarily think that the source of where some of that's coming from, if we're not in agreement.
I feel like he's going to listen to this and I'm going to feel horrible that I say he's a lovely man. He's a lovely person.
No, it's okay.
Really
that's
insightful.
Okay.
Very funny.
I don't want to lie. If we have disagreements about things, I think it's important to know.
I just disagree on the God stuff, but
that's
I mean,
okay.
He's the kind of person who would be like, let's talk about that. It's good to have doubts. Okay. Anyways, we've talked way too much about rabbis in this episode.
I think this was a fantastic conversation and we got to some real truths and we couldn't ask for more than that. So,
well, your positivity carries us both through this, or God carries me through this, Josh.
It's good. It's always great chatting with you. I really do feel like I grow from this podcast. And part of the reason is because I know it's one of the reasons I love doing this with you, because I challenge myself and my ego constantly. You know, one of the things that I've been kind of against that people always say I should do is, Josh, you should talk to a therapist. Now, I do still stand by the fact that I don't want to spend money on it right now if I'm not that mentally unwell.
I love that you're like, everybody tells me to talk to a therapist. I'm never going to do it.
No, they're not telling me and I don't think they're telling me to talk to a therapist because they think I'm mentally unwell. They just think it's great to talk to a therapist and it can help everybody. And they're right. Of course, it can help everybody. And, you know, if you watch Ted Lasso season 2, it's all about that. I'm not against the idea of talking to a therapist. In fact, I recommend it to other people often. But I'm against me talking to a therapist. And I'm not against it in general. I love talking to people, but it costs money. I always point that out.
Okay, if you had free therapy with something.
So here's the thing.
But they were still getting paid, but not by you.
Okay, so I recently told myself, you know what? I think I'm looking at this wrong. I'm looking at it as I don't have any I don't think I have some extreme mental illness that needs to be dealt with. I already am very honest with people. You know, why do I need a therapist to also be on it? Like, I'm just going to be repeating myself. Is there anything I'm really going to reveal that I wouldn't reveal to my close friends that I already am an open book with?
But they give you like an objective feedback. That's different than your friends.
I try to have friends that give me objective feedback. I have you, for example.
Well, thank you.
And I do a podcast.
No, but that's different. Okay,
obviously, this does count as some therapy. I don't want to diminish this. But obviously, there are things you get out of therapy too that could be very useful. And I thought about this and I was like, you know, maybe I'm looking at this wrong. What are some things that I wish I could do better that I'm not doing a great job at that maybe a therapist could help me with?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
You know, I realize that sometimes when I feel attacked in a moment. For example, when I'm working on, the TV show with my group, I respond really fast and really hard.
Really? Oh, I've never seen you do that.
I get triggered. Like, I think I know what they're saying. I don't even want to hear the rest of it. I want to stop it before we start talking about it for half an hour. And I don't respond well. And I eventually come around. I come around after going at it for a bit, but I don't like that initial response. And I'm already trying to deal with that.
It's a reaction more than a response.
Sure, it was a reaction more than a response. Exactly. You're right. I reacted instead of responding. It's a problem I sometimes have. I was like, you know what? I'm sure if I talked to a therapist, if I brought this up, they'd probably give me a bunch of
tools,
mechanisms and tools in order to better respond in situations like this and find out why I respond the way that I do in this regard. And even if I've already discussed it with others, I could do it more objectively.
Do you want to learn more about yourself?
Yeah. And I'd be there to do that. I wouldn't feel like I'm using up my friend's time to talk about it. So
good.
It's
like a workshop, but on you. You're the subject. It's like, help me figure out how to fix this thing. That's how I would like when I would go, I'd be like, I have a problem and let's fix it together. Or even if it's not like a big problem, sometimes it's just like, you know how you don't always have to do like a whole overhaul of your house. It's just like, you need a light dusting. Maybe you just need a light dusting in your brain before it gets too messy.
When it comes down to it, I just had to get past my own ego. And how I define myself as a mentally healthy person. And so obviously
you're mentally healthy, all things considered. Like,
I think so too, but of course I feel attacked. Like, again, it's the tact of it, right? Immediately that triggers me when someone's like, oh, you should go talk to a therapist. It's already feels like it's attacking a way that I define myself. And I need to get past that shit. I need to just
get past
be open and listen. It really is important to listen sometimes. I talk a lot, but I do think it's really important to listen.
But you're a good listener too. I'm so sorry. No, I'm joking. Josh, you're a very good listener. If I thought you talked too much and didn't like talking to you, I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't. I wouldn't keep talking to you. And you know that this is my way of communicating. Because you're making like a happy face that's hiding a sad face right now.
No.
I know we're going back and forth. Okay, let's just finish. We're done, right?
No, we both can address
our my God. Everybody's fine.
Everything's great.
Blah, blah, blah. Nobody's invading anybody's countries.
Whatever issues we have, we'll deal with it in another podcast. Next therapy session.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Next. All right. This has been another episode of Adulthood Friends. Let me do that again. I got kind of like raspy. This has been another episode of Adulthood Friends. I guess I'm just raspy today.
You really want to make sure that sounds okay because, as you know, you define yourself now as somebody who has a really good podcasting voice.
Well, you're the one, you can't tell me that people say that because now I feel like I have to live up to that.
There you go.
All right.
Sometimes other people do make our ego. Okay, I'm done. Okay.
Oh my God, Josh, it's over.
Sometimes we get an ego because of what other people say. Like they say, you don't want to. It's true. I protected my friend's ego so much sometimes that I gave them such a big ego that when I started, like I told some of my friends once that they were so good at what they were doing and that they were so amazing at it all the time and that they were never doing anything wrong, that when I started surpassing them in this field in some way, their brains weren't able to, they'd be like, but I thought I was.
That's not compute.
And it caused a cognitive dissonance. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's sad.
So you know what?
So don't be so nice to people, Josh.
Don't overprotect people's egos either.
Reel it in a little bit. Okay. Yeah. Reel it in.
So actually your podcasting voice, Aya, is, I know it's great. You have a good podcasting voice.
No, it's not that good. I understand.
It's fantastic. I was joking.
I've heard people with like good radio voices.
This whole story was.
No, it's fine. It's fine, Josh. I can take the criticism.
I know, but it would be lying.
Well, but now I feel all this pressure. Now everybody's thinking like, does she have a good podcasting voice? I'm going to really listen now. Don't really listen.
You do for now. One day you might not, but you do.
What the hell? What do you one day I might not?
I'm shifting the conversation
so much right now, John. Oh my God. All right. This has been another episode of Adulthood Friends. I can't. Ugh. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe or follow us or do both of those things or any number of things. We also have polls that you can do on. I'm showing thumb movements to indicate
to show how we would use a poll.
Cell phones, how you would use a cell phone poll in Spotify, asking things like, what size is your ego? Small, medium, large, extra large, child size.
Now we know what our poll is going to be.
Yeah, it's just an idea. I'm just throwing things out there. And yeah, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And I don't know, anything to add to that, John?
Did you say where they should follow us? I think you just kind of skipped that part.
Don't people know by now?
No,
Okay,
they don't.
we're
This could be
on.
the first episode. What are you talking about? Just like that
Oh,
story you told about
yeah.
them listening to people
I
pleasing, and
know. Because they were like, oh, that's a problem I have. So they were listening to people pleasing.
there you go.
You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, and anywhere you like to listen, probably.
Sometimes Facebook as well, if you live in the right region.
Sometimes Facebook as well. And yeah, we have a page on Facebook. So if you follow us, we're on there. And Josh posts stuff on Instagram too, although I think that's just from his personal account. So maybe you want to follow that or not. I don't know how that works.
It's a good way to get people to follow me on my personal account. Boom. Self-promotion.
Okay, yeah. So everybody follow Josh. He does stuff. It's good.
You know, the more followers you have in the industry, the more people take you seriously.
I don't want people. Yeah, I can't relate. That seems like the hardest part of that industry to me. I'm sure there's harder parts.
I don't like that stuff, honestly.
Yeah,
fake.
But you're good at it. So yeah, Josh does all the self-promotion. Josh does all the promotion-y stuff and keeps everybody updated on Facebook.
While we're at it, can you subscribe to my channel on YouTube, Action Potential Productions?
Action Potential Productions, where we've got Active Shooter, among other things that have hit millions of views.
It's a movie, by the way. You should probably note that. Movies. I was like, please say movie.
Films, Josh. I once wrote movies in an essay, and the prof who read it was like, in academia, movies referred to as films. And I was like,
what? That is the most pretentious thing I've ever heard. Movies and films, it's the same shit.
Well, you don't call it a movie in an essay. Come on.
You do. What are you talking about?
No.
They're synonyms.
Well, yes, but she was from like the film department initially.
Actually, we call it motion pictures.
It's a film. Okay. Anyway, I don't know. She was pretentious. She is pretentious. She's still alive.
We've had some
being pretentious everywhere.
Oh my God. Yeah. We've had some messes of ending an episode before, but this has got to be the messiest.
Oh my God, yeah. I'm not even going to say anything else. I think you should just end it somewhere in that.
And where do we end it now? Do we put ourselves out of our misery?
No more words.
Oh my God. You know, I think I've just reached ego death. I think I've achieved it. I think I've achieved ego death. This has been a spiritual experience.
You live in LA. How have you not heard more about ego death? Like that's probably
it's an irony because everybody here has huge egos. What are you talking about? It's LA.
Yeah, but they're the ones talking about like I felt so connected to the world. It was like I didn't even like feel like me anymore. I was just like part of the fabric of the universe. No, I don't.
And they're just like I, me, I.
It's often the people with the biggest egos who think they've reached some kind of ego death. Anyways, why are we talking again? Why are we talking again, Josh? Oh my God.
Because we obviously have some things to resolve here. Maybe post podcast, let's get into it.
But I think that it is like an idealistic thing. And like the stuff that I've read about like ego death. Okay. Why? Stop. Oh my God.
Just remember, the bigger an ego you have, the more you're like Hitler.
It's always good to end with Hitler.
Again, put us out of our misery. We need a final solution here.
Oh my God. No, John. Egomaniac.
Just throwing in the word egomaniac. We didn't use the word egomaniac and we're talking about ego?
Maniac.
Use egomaniac in a sentence.
You are an egomaniac. You are not an egomaniac.
Despite
what some people may believe, Josh is not an egomaniac.
Oh, thanks.